Welcome to the Perimenopause and Midlife podcast. I'm your host, 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗚𝗀𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀, and this is where we talk honestly about midlife, hormones, mindset, and becoming who you want to be next. Welcome to the Perimenopause and Midlife podcast. I'm your host, 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, and today I'm talking with Kristy Hollis. Kristy is a naturopath, herbalist, mentor, and women's health advocate with more than 24 years' experience supporting holistic health and well-being. Based in the Northern Territory, she's passionate about helping women navigate stress, hormones, nutrition, and emotional well-being through natural medicine and practical lifestyle strategies. Through her project, Women's Business, Nurture and Thrive, Kristy delivers workshops and personalised consultations focused on whole person healing, combining herbal medicine, reflexology and culturally respective care. A former president of the Complementary Medicine Association of Australia, she also advocates for preventative healthcare and naturopathy within mainstream health policy. Welcome, Kristy. It is such a pleasure to have you.
Good morning, Terry. So lovely to be here too. Thank you for that.
I'm a bit excited to speaking with you. Oh,
yes, me too. We've got so much to talk about.
Absolutely. I know we were yabbering away off air, so this is going to be an absolute mind blower today. So I'm very excited about that. To kick off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words and how you help ladies in perimenopause?
Yeah, look, I've, as you said, been in practice as a naturopath and herbalist for 24 years now and up in Darwin for the last 17 years. I am 2 years postmenopausal myself, so been through the journey a while now. So I always find that's really helpful for women to know that who they're seeing is actually been and seen and felt everything as well in this journey of perimenopause. But yes, I've been
you would have been going... Oh, sorry. I was going to say you would have been going through it long before it actually even became a conversation. But if you're 2 years postmenopause.
Yeah. And
sorry,
quite
I
honestly,
interrupted you.
You're right. Quite honestly, I didn't realize even myself because I'm seeing clients every day. But I didn't realize the roller coaster was unraveling for myself when it was. So, you know, just because you know doesn't mean you're paying attention to yourself as well.
Oh, I feel you. I feel you. I absolutely feel you. Okay, so you've spent more than 2 decades, not 2 years, 2 decades supporting women through naturopathy and holistic healthcare. Can you share a little bit about your journey and what led you into this work to start with?
Yeah, look, I became fascinated with herbs and that sort of stuff as a child. Quite literally, my nan used to take me around her garden, smelling the flowers, picking herbs and, you know, flowers and fruit, everything from the garden, making potpourri, herbal teas, that sort of space as a little one. And I just was really passionate about it and really grew into aromatherapy, but didn't really quite know where to go with it all back then. So as a teen, I jumped into science, really loved everything about the human body and about the world around us, and actually applied for a CSIRO traineeship. Totally left of field. I know, totally left of field, but I ended up working in entomology, which is insects. And we were actually
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you what that is. Okay.
Yeah.
Insects. Okay. That's very different to herbs. Okay.
But the link is we were importing these insects to actually eradicate through biological control. So they would eat the plants, weeds, which were down southwest WA at the time, that with farmers and things. Herbs, actually, not weeds. Herbs I now use for women's health, like red clover, yellow dock. So totally bizarre, but that's where I didn't recognize them as herbs back then in my 20s, but I traveled around Australia working in this role within entomology at different areas and got back home after 3 years of travel and went, no, I want to give it a go and dive into naturopathy again. And that's when I jumped back into this space and then uncovered what it was that I was actually trying to eradicate that back then was actually herbal medicine.
So you came full 360.
Totally, 100%.
That's insane. It's funny how life kind of diverts you back into the path that you're supposed to be on, right? Because it certainly sounds like this is your path.
100%. Yeah, it really, I have always been fascinated by that space and, you know, the magic that plants can bring to our health and well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because I come from a Greek background, and so we've always eaten a lot of what are classified as weeds. And so we've used them in herbs and salads and all sorts of things, in teas, herbal remedy. And as a child, I got bashed by the Aussie kids being the only wog, quote unquote, in the district. I got bashed by the Aussie kids because of my parents picking weeds from the garden, the paddocks. And it's interesting and also very exciting that 40 years later, it's actually being recognised as medicinal and part of our daily diet in some instances, like artichokes. So it's definitely, we've come a long way, just as our conversation that we were having off air with regards to perimenopause and how it's kind of been a very taboo conversation for such a long time. And all of a sudden, things are finally coming to light. How fascinating. Do you want to talk us through that? We were just talking about all the ads that are coming through and the training that's coming into mainstream doctors, etc. Talk us through all that.
Yes, as you said, I've been in this space for quite a while supporting it, and I've always been fascinated when the new thing on the news or governments finally recognise something or doctors have now found this herb or vitamin is useful. The new ads that the government has put out now supporting women in perimenopause and I guess highlighting the impact that it really does have on our day-to-day lives, which is wonderful, really wonderful, but seems a little late in that space.
Yeah,
but
about time.
About time. And even the teachings, I actually used to work in an anatomy lab up here in Darwin for the year 1 and 2 doctors. And we used to actually talk about the students used to go in and do signs and symptoms and, you know, consults that I used to observe and help with. And just that whole space of perimenopause was not part of a discussion or part of a questioning line in that space. Finally, now doctors are being, you know, getting that training into their actual training. It's actually happening. And those GPs that are already in the system are being offered extra training in menopause, which is, like I said, about time.
Yeah, I totally agree. About time indeed. It's just as we were saying, like I said, we were talking about this off air, but it's really important that we don't get left behind like we always do. And when I say we, I mean us women, biological women I'm talking about in that regard, that we get left behind when it comes to science and research. Because in history, it was the men that were making the decisions. So they just assumed we were all the same. And, you know, in all fairness, I don't blame them. How are they supposed to know that we're very different to what they are? And if they're the only ones making decisions, obviously they're not going to be making them on our behalf. So it's fantastic to have women making decisions now and advocating for ourselves and really pushing so that these things are coming to light a little bit more. Recognition, research, getting education. How important is that? That's the best. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Coming into some holistic life hacks now, you talk about those. When I was reading through all of your information, you work in a lot of holistic life hacks. So what are some of the simple everyday changes women can make that may positively impact their hormones, their stress levels, energy, just their overall well-being during perimenopause and menopause?
Yeah, look, one of the big things that I really love is starting a day right, to be quite honest. Hitting pause in the right way. So get up in the morning and quite literally I have a cup of my herbal tea. So it literally is hitting pause. And while it's brewing, you're pausing, okay? Because you can't drink a cup of tea straight away. So it's literally about hitting pause, and it's not about planning your day. It's just about looking at the flowers, listening to the birds, watching your dogs, whatever's going on in that space, and not going, because we often do go too much. That's my first little hack that I try to do. Like, honestly, 90% of my life starts that way, hitting pause. And
so starting the day from a place of quiet as compared to, right, let's get down and dirty. What are we doing for the day?
100%, because then you're just on rolling straight through. And
cool.
even those women that are actually saying, but I've got kids to get organized and all of that, 10 minutes. Get up 10 minutes early. It doesn't need to be an hour, just 10 minutes for you.
10 minutes is doable. I agree. I've got a crazy morning every morning, but I agree with you. I think 10 minutes is doable. And I'm usually up between 4:30 and 5:30. So, yeah, I think that's workable. All right. What else have you got for us?
Yeah. And I mean, for me as well, I have been doing a lot of that sort of space of vision board space. And I know that sounds a bit out there for some women too, but it's setting your purpose. Boards. Setting your purpose and your direction. So, it could be after you've sat there and taken it in, hit pause, enjoy your cup of tea then with scrolling through your vision board. I save it on my phone and I just have it on there to just ground, reset my intentions and my strength for the day. But then other real doable stuff is really about what you're doing for your life. So food-wise, having some meal planning space really saves time and energy and thoughts. Overwhelmed sometimes we can get bored or struggle choosing what to do, especially if we're the one doing it all the time. It can get a bit much.
Decision fatigue.
100%.
Yeah. I totally agree. I know a lot of people who actually wear the same kind of things day in, day out, or, when working in an organization, they have kind of a uniform way of working. And I love that in my work, I do have a uniform. So it just kind of keeps the decisions down. And you're right. A meal plan definitely helps keep decisions down because you kind of plan ahead, or even if you just have standard go-to meals that you kind of go, okay, these are my stock standard menu that I can turn to, and I can be flexible from that. Yeah, I agree. If we can reduce decision fatigue.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any other little life hacks that you might come up with?
Definitely, I'm a freezer meal girl. So I do my slow cook or a big cook up and then put it in the freezer. And if I'm working late or I just can't be bothered making anything that evening, I know I've got a really good meal in the freezer that I can go to. My hubby does work FIFO, so again, that makes it easier for me too on those busy days. And it just, what you're eating. It's not a bought freezer meal. It's a real meal.
I agree. I actually do that too. I always keep things in the freezer as well, back up.
Yeah, 100%.
I know sometimes it might sound a little bit inconvenient to people, and you kind of go, oh God, I've got to, do a new batch or whatever. But it really does make a difference in the long run. Short sacrifice, an immediate sacrifice for long-term success.
Yes. Yeah.
So many women are curious about herbal medicine. I personally love herbal medicine, but a lot of women out there don't fully understand what that actually is and how it works. How can herbs help support women through hormonal changes?
So I do my own teas and that. And so I think teas are a great way of bringing it in as a regular part, but it is a low dose, so it's not super strong. So it's just part of a ritual that you're creating, that time out pause. But you are also, the herbs that you're drinking are beneficial. So all of mine are created that way so that they actually will have beneficial benefits for you. But then obviously the beauty of herbs is it's not like, say, a medicine with a chemical formula designed just to, help with a headache or inflammation. It's actually going there's many layers to a plant. You know, they could be helpful for your gut and digestion. They could be great for inflammation or soothing the body or nervous system. Balancing hormones, all in one plant, you know. So and then it's how you layer those together to build a prescription just for you. And that's what I love about being a herbalist, is that it can be tailored to a formula for the person in front of you.
It is very personalised, I agree. When I get little herbal tinkers or even teas, I love the fact that it's always about, so my doctor's listening to what I have to say, what I'm experiencing, what I'm struggling with, and then creating something that is specific for me. And I love that too, because I kind of feel like medicine, you go, oh yeah, I've got a headache. There's no real, so what's causing this headache? Let's deal with what the cause is. It's like, here's a Panadol and be done with. But is the Panadol the be all and end all? And there is place for Panadol. I'm not, you know, ditching it completely at all, but I'm just saying, like, the difference, I guess, for medicine and herbs. Is that that's the sort of thing that you speak to women about as well?
100%. It's getting to the root cause about what's going on, not just putting a Band-Aid on it. Sure, we can do that with herbs as well. So, you know, it can be done that way. But it's definitely going into a more personalised, why is this happening to you? What do we need to do to support you at this time? And then the formula will change as you improve and your symptoms change. And also, I'm not someone who likes having someone on herbs forever either, because that's no fun either. It's all about balance and getting you to that state of wellness that you're happy with as well.
I love that, because I totally agree. It can be A, expensive, and B, if you're reliant on just some sort of assistance of any sort and you're not advocating within your own body as well, it doesn't give you much independence and empowerment, I guess, that you're doing something for yourself as well. And I think, like with anything, we do need to make some lifestyle changes. Is that correct?
Yes, most definitely. So, you know, we talk about that in a consult with me. We're going through what is going on for you, for your sleep, what exercise are you doing, what are you eating, you know, and how are those things being digested as well. All of those things are part of what's affecting your health. So, and they're little takeaway snippets to put the whole puzzle together, you know. So, yeah. Lifestyle changes are really important.
Exactly what I was about to say. I find that no matter how much medication or herbs or pills, potions, whatever it is that the person turns to, no matter how much of that they're doing, if they're not changing some of their lifestyle factors as well and adapting those to better wellness, all of those pills, potions, herbs, etc., are just not going to do a maximum job in the same way as if you couple that with all the lifestyle changes.
Yeah. No, I have people that think that this is a magic pill or a magic potion and they don't have to do anything else. But, you know, you have to get the best effect and the money's worth, you've got to do switch it up. Take it on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It would be fabulous if we did have a magic pill or potion, wouldn't it? And just do it.
Yeah.
But really, all good things take time and a little bit of effort, don't they?
They do, 100%.
But you also practice reflexology.
Mm-hmm.
So for the ladies out there who are kind of going, yeah, what is that? That sounds a bit weird. It's a weird word. May not have heard of it. Can you talk us through reflexology and how that might help a lady who's going through some hormonal changes?
Yeah, definitely. So I love reflexology as a modality because it's a real chill out time for you on the table. It's a massage on your feet or on your hands and using pressure points. So like right now, this one's about brain and function, thinking, thought pattern. And then, you know, supporting all different areas of the body from adrenals and kidney function. So the woman doesn't have to do a thing. She can get a full body relax and reset sort of space without having to lift a finger. And it basically works by energetically unblocking chi. So moving that flow through the body, through the pathways, through to the organs. And what we pick up as a reflexologist is little grainy bits, or it feels like congestion. You may notice when I'm working on your feet that there's a little bit of a tender spot there. We work on that space gently to release that and work through the whole body. Look, I've been doing it for years. I have people fall asleep on the table. I also use it for actually to help balance hormones, even for fertility. So, it's a great all-round treatment space. It can be packaged along with anything, or you can just do it on your own. Doesn't need to be part of any treatment.
I'm one of those people that falls asleep on the table, I have to admit.
And I don't
found
mind
it
that.
Fascinating, Mike. I love that. I kind of go, you do your thing, you fix me while I sleep. I think that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it's an amazing deal. And I personally really, really love doing it. I go into my own little happy space giving reflexology. So it's just really cool.
I love that. And you're passing on some beautiful positive energy from that touch. That's beautiful. I found my first experience with reflexology, I had severe hip pain, and my Chinese medicine doctor said to me, let's do some reflexology. And I was like, all right. I didn't think much of it. Anyway, this was my first experience. And he started pressing into my heel, so just on the back of the heel. And I was like, oh my God, that is excruciating. And it's like, yeah, we're just going to work through that. So he's massaging through. And after a while, so he moved on to the rest of the foot and whatnot. But I remember the heel, and I'll explain why in a sec. And so he's moved on to the rest of the foot. I felt great. And then as he went into the rest of the foot, I actually fell asleep. And so once it was all done and dusted and I was awake again, I got up and he said to me, how's your hip feeling? And I was like, it's actually pretty good. This is weird. How? I was like, what did you do while I was sleeping? Did you knock me out or something? He said, no, that tension you were feeling in your heel, it was related to your hip. And I was like, what? So that was my first experience. And then I kind of delved into a little bit more as a recipient, not a person who practices, but as a recipient. And I can definitely attest, as a recipient, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I love it.
So from a reflexology perspective, stress is a really big thing for us in midlife, because everything stresses our body. Even when we think we're not stressed, we're stressed. What are some of the points? Is there a reflexology point you mentioned about in your hands? Is there something that the ladies can do for themselves that can help them? If this podcast is resonating, I'm Coach 𝗘𝗏𝗜𝗂𝗂𝗏𝗂𝗏, a nutrition, mindset and health coach for women navigating perimenopause and midlife. I support women in managing hormonal symptoms, feel more at home in their bodies, and move through this phase with confidence and clarity. If you need support navigating midlife, you can find out more about working with me at 𝗘𝗏𝗜𝗂𝗏𝗂𝗏𝗂𝗏.
Yeah, so adrenals sit just above our kidneys. So our kidneys in our hand is in the middle of the palm, and our adrenals sit on top of our adrenals, on top of our kidneys, just like they do in the body. So I just tend to actually have that whole kidney space just with your thumb, and you can just gently pulsate into that space. Pulsating will help balance. If you want to stimulate, if you're feeling like you need a bit more energy, or more would be better, not but if you're feeling stressed, you want to wind it down. So winding down, you would be going from the thumb side across to the little finger side. That will go down, winding it down. But if you want to wind up because you're feeling really flat, then you go the opposite way. So go towards the thumb and up. Yeah. But just balance, just go straight in and out. Just pulsating.
That's cool. I love that. That's really cool. I think that's something powerful that like I said, we were talking about empowerment, right? So anything that can empower ladies to be able to do things for themselves. And then it's always great to go, cool, now I want to pamper myself and have somebody else help me out as well. I love that.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess, when you do manual lymphatic drainage on yourself versus somebody else, there's benefits to both of those.
100%.
Speaking of stress, so from a perspective of a woman in midlife, from a naturopathy perspective, sorry, I was trying to get a question clear into my head, what I wanted to ask you. From a naturopathy perspective, how does chronic stress actually impact our body over a period of time? Because stress in midlife, it becomes chronic. It's not an acute thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just share a little story about me, if you don't mind, and that might help and women may be able to relate.
I like stories. I love stories. Go for it.
So, how old am I now? Gosh, nearly 20 years ago, I will say. I just finished my studies and I was doing it was over 20 years ago now that I say that. Gosh, now I'm thinking how old I am. Anyway, many years ago, I was in a relationship that I'd been into for a long time, and I was finishing off my studies and doing my clinic hours and working part-time. I was going to the gym morning and night. Just a few things, but I was also going to the gym morning and night. And I was renovating a house with my ex, and it was a pretty crappy relationship. I was walking on eggshells all the time at home. So I was going to the gym to avoid being at home. And I got to a stage where at work, I couldn't do a single flight of stairs going up, and I was always getting sick. And I was going, what is going on? And I was a naturopathic student, so I was like, but I'm not going to treat myself. I went off and saw a naturopath, that I actually had never met before. I just went, don't want someone who knows me. I want someone who can clean slate. Went and saw her. Independent. And she did some hormone testing on me, some salivary hormone testing on me. And these showed up really quite alarming in my situation. I was only in my early 30s, like very early 30s. And she said to me, Kristy, if I didn't know that these were your results, I honestly would have thought you were 60 years old. I went, okay.
Wow, that's quite severe. Right.
Yeah. So all my female hormones, my progesterone, my estrogen were all flatlined. Like I'd already gone through menopause, but hey, I hadn't.
In your 30s, in early 30s as well. Wow.
Yeah, okay. Early 30s. And I was still having a cycle. But actually, I'm going to say now that I reflect, I actually was on the pill back then. So,
which kept your cycle going, yeah.
Kept your cycle going.
Artificial
cycle. That's exactly right, Terry. So, it was definitely, I didn't know what was going on in that way, but my hormone levels were flat, nothing there. My cortisol was actually declined because it wasn't spiking because it'd gone beyond that. It was flat as well. So, little did I know that, but this years and years of impact of this stress of me juggling, 100 things at once, just whether that was me or me coping at that time. But then obviously I followed her advice. I took some herbs and nutrients specific for what was going to support me. I followed her lifestyle advice. Instead of going to the gym twice a day, doing running and weights, I was now going 2 or 3 times a week doing body balance back then or yoga and just walking on the treadmill. Slowing everything down, not pumping cortisol around to keep up, So
I feel like I'm listening to my story. I can really relate to your story. And that's why I wanted to share, because so many women are going through this, especially during perimenopause.
They're juggling career.
I totally agree. I went through it in my late 30s to the point where I ended up with chronic fatigue. I was actually bedridden for 4 days and my body hurt so much I couldn't actually even roll from one side to another because everything had become so inflamed, so chronic, so everything. And my naturopath actually helped me through that too. So I can definitely relate to your story. Sorry, continue.
No, well, that's great. That's exactly what I'm trying to get at, is that our nervous system gets strung out. Our adrenals, it's not right to say they're drained, but they're overworked, in that space, where the thing is our hypothalamus, pituitary, speaks then to our adrenals, which then speaks to our ovaries. Now, if we're in that fight and flight space all the time, there's no way that message is getting down to our ovaries, okay, for the hormones to be balanced. It's getting cut into that adrenals just to keep survival mode. This is why a lot of women struggle with fertility space as well in those 30s space, okay? So now you throw in there later in life, you've been doing that, say, for 15, 20 years, and now all of a sudden you're struggling with perimenopause symptoms and they're going crazy because your stress and adrenals haven't been balanced and in check for that long. So it's one of the big things that I always work with women is that adrenal and nervous system needs to be balanced as they go through and into perimenopause.
I agree with you. You mentioned about our fertile years where we're trying to get pregnant. In the early days, we're so busy trying to get careers going, relationships going, everything going, studying at uni, for those people studying a trade or whatever they're doing, they were kind of cramming all these things in. And so starting a family is happening later in life. And by this point, our system is already fatigued, strained, cortisol levels are, elevated to the nth degree. And so then all of a sudden we're starting to, try and have a family. And I'm talking from experience with this as well, because I was one of these people who struggled with fertility. So you go through, for many women, it might be IVF. It could be so many other things. You end up, there's endometriosis that comes out, PCOS that's recently been renamed, just so many other fertility issues. And they kind of get put on the back burner and given a lot of medication and drugs, etc. But then we're not looking at the root cause, which is the stress, and how to calm that down, and then how to support that with lifestyle changes. And so by the time all this happens, that's right, perimenopause is kicking in, and we're then having this conversation. It's a bit scary, isn't it? When
it is really scary.
If our daughters could, listen to this podcast and just go, yeah, okay, let me learn something from this and start making adjustments from now, how amazing is it going to be for the next generation that they don't have to go through what we're going through? I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. And I guess it's great. At least this conversation is now here, right? So,
yeah. And it's good. Our generation is the generation that's making so much difference, because we're the first generation in leadership. We're the first generation where there's so many entrepreneurial women. We're the first generation where, unfortunately, we're working because we have to, not necessarily because we choose to, although for many it is a choice as well. But it's a neat thing now, not so much as it used to be decades ago. And so it's no wonder we're the first generation that's going through so many different hormonal changes, or at least we're the first generation actually talking about it. And so we're setting things up for some awesomeness in the future, which I think is fabulous. And it's thanks to people like you that are just making such an impact in society. And one of the things that you make impact on is rural and remote communities.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about your work in rural communities and some of the struggles that they might be experiencing, and the work that you do with them?
Yeah, thanks, Terry, for that, because I really have been working down in Katherine. I'm in Darwin, and that's 300 kilometres north of Katherine. You may or may not have seen that on the news a bit with floods this year particularly. But the women there come from not just the town, but from all the stations, the cattle stations around in the middle of the territory. But they come to town for shopping to get all their supplies and doctor's appointments and things. But there's no naturopath in town. I've been traveling down there for 11 years now, supporting those women down there. So doing
300
one-on-one
kilometers.
consults. Yeah. You just do it.
Gosh. Yeah.
Look, I know we've got telehealth, but telehealth is one thing. Being in a room with the same person, getting to know the person is a total other thing, right? So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I travel down there every 4 to 6 weeks to see those women. And look, they're going through the same journey as we are, obviously, but they're also experiencing it in more isolation than what we do. You know, we say we don't necessarily talk to our girlfriends in a real way of what's happening. We might just brush over things, but not really delve into those conversations. When you're down in a remote or rural community, you may not have or see your neighbours very often at all. And your family isn't there to support you as well, you know, or you've got a small team on the station. So it's a lot more lonelier as well. And, you know, and that's part of that space as well with perimenopause. We're not just talking hot flushes. We're talking about loneliness. We're talking about moods, you know.
Yeah.
These things are just part of the big picture. So it's really important that those women can get that support. And I really love, you know, doing workshops with them as well, because then they're sharing with other women those experiences, learning from each other, and, you know, maybe walking away from that and talking with them further, catching up later, or, you know, connecting online, whatever works for them.
I think that's really important, that connection that you're talking about, because in amongst all the hormonal changes that we're experiencing, our dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins, they're all our feel-good, happy hormones, our love and connection hormones. And when we're isolated, or we may not necessarily even be isolated. For these ladies, they're isolated in remote communities. But just in general, even if someone's just feeling isolated, they're not going to be socializing to the same degree, especially in rural communities, which means they're going to be producing even less of these hormones. So the work that you're doing is so powerful, bringing these ladies together. And I totally agree that telehealth is an amazing tool that's come up, and I think it's definitely great that we're using it. But I agree that you can't take away that personability, that one-on-one connection that you have with ladies. So thank you very much for your work that you do there. I think that's super important.
Thank you.
There's a lot of conflicting information that's out online, especially with social media. And it's difficult for even those of us who are in the know to kind of decipher, you know, what's real and what's not. What are some evidence-based strategies that women can focus on without overwhelm, that they can kind of decipher what's true and what's not out there?
Yeah, that is so true. There's a lot of research, and unfortunately, a lot of the research can be skewed as well by who's funding it, but also who the participants are. As we were saying at the beginning of this conversation, a lot of the testing or the drugs and stuff that are around for hormones balancing, or even any other drugs, are tested on men, and not a lot of things are tested on women. So evidence-based is something that I do really look for when I'm looking for the herbs and things that I'm utilising. One of the big things that talk about is, or women do use, and I'm not saying don't use these things, it's just not necessarily backed by a lot of evidence, but wild yam cream, it's supposed to help with progesterone via topical use. Topically, it doesn't absorb. The evidence shows that it is very minimal. So again, maybe it's a placebo space that works for you, or you feel like you're supporting yourself. That's fantastic. I'm not begrudging that, but it may not necessarily be affecting or supporting the hormones as well as you think. But that's not to say taking it orally doesn't work. So orally, it does support progesterone in the body and balance those hormones with estrogens. So definitely, especially when you're talking about practitioner-only brands versus over-the-counter. Over-the-counter, you can be getting things that are literally could be made in anywhere without even the correct herb. They're not TGA approved, and they're not therapeutic. I always see a lot of women when they come in with their shopping bag of goodies and say, oh, I've been taking these for so long. I say, yeah, okay, let's have a look. Before I prescribe anything, I'm happy to use your stuff if it's going to be beneficial for you, 100%. You spent money. But when I read it and I can see that it says they need to have, like, even on the bottle, it says 6 tablets a day, and they're taking 1 tablet a day. And then when I work that calculation out and I do it against the studies and know what the therapeutic dose is for those herbs, and I go, okay, you're going to need to take 15 of those tablets to get a therapeutic effect every day. And that's just one of those things that they've bought in that shopping bag. So I
because the doses are so low.
Yet the dosing is so low. And the reason why it's so low is because it's an over-the-counter product, okay? So they can't necessarily have those high doses because they're not practitioner approved. So, I mean, again, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but again, you may not be actually paying for what you really think is in it. That herb may be adulterated. It may not be that herb at all if it's not TGA approved. So evidence-based, besides herbs, choosing the right ones, for me, diet is a big space with this. And, you know, one diet doesn't fit everybody 100%. But one thing I do find that does work for a majority of people is protein throughout the day, because it helps. And I'm not talking eating lots of meat all the time. We're talking protein from all sources, from plants as well as meats if you choose as well, or even supplements. But it's about balance. But it helps in so many ways for energy. It helps with your bone and muscle building. It helps with blood sugar regulation. You know, it's going to actually help you get through your day, help with weight loss that is difficult during this phase as well, but also help us not be grabbing junk food throughout the day. So little pick-me-ups. So protein and good fats for women in hormone changing times. So our avocado, olive oil, nuts and seeds are really important to include in your diet.
I'm with you on that one so much, especially with a variety of protein. I personally am an omnivore, which means I have animal products as well as vegetation, for those people who may not be aware of what that term it means. And I think it's very powerful to rotate. So regardless of whether you're an omnivore or vegetable-based diet, it's very important that you rotate your food, because with 22 amino acids, not all foods have the same amount of each of the amino acid inside them, and we absorb things at different levels. And so I guess by rotating all of those different proteins, you're going to get a nice balance of and the 22 amino acids across the board. I think that's super important. I'm really glad that you touched on that.
Yeah.
Nutrition is definitely one of my passions, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Coming back to your work with the communities that you work with, you're also building partnerships with First Nation healers. Can you share a little about the importance of cultural knowledge, connection, and the community when it comes to healing and well-being?
Yeah, look, I've really loved this part of my journey as well. As I've been going down to Catherine, I've connected with the 𝗓𝗏𝗄𝗃 ladies down there, which is an Indigenous space that they do different ways of healing, even just by their art. We know art therapy space is a real thing as well. But they asked me to come in and do some women's talk on menopause. And I was like, yes, I'd love to talk women's business with you. So that's been happening now for the last 18 months. I'm actually going down in June as well, so doing that too. So for another 2 workshops for the staff as well as the women as part of the centre. But the big thing is listening to the community, asking what do they want, just being there and making real connection. It's taken a long time to build trust and connection. I have just gotten back from 𝗘𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗃, which is an island off of northeast Darwin in Arnhem Land. And the women there I've been connected with them for about 2 years as well, but I've only just gotten out there. using some of my agri-futures winning money, Rural Women's Award money to get out there because it's such a remote space. It costs a lot of money, but I just wanted to be on the ground and connect with them, see what it is they want as well. And they're really, really excited to have me back. I was using flower essences with the ladies, which is another total different spin.
Flower essences?
Yes.
Talk us through that. Flower essences. As in like the actual essence from a flower, you mean? Like their aroma? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Do tell, explain.
Yeah, no worries. So unlike an essential oil, which is an extraction through the plant and the flower and produces this beautiful smell, flower essences is an energetic capturing from the flower. So they're washed. Flowers are washed at a particular time of day to capture their energy. You know, when you go into the forest and you feel, your body just relaxes. It could be a forest, it could be but the beach that does that to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Both of those for me. Yeah, nature. Absolutely.
Nature energy.
You get that natural energy.
So
I love that. I've never heard of it as flower essences. But yeah, it's just natural energy. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So, but it's
I love that.
I use these ones. These are from WA, and they're called living essences. But there's Australian bush essences in Australia as well. You might heard of rescue remedy or bark flowers.
Yes. Yeah.
They're English, so they're the English flowers, and they're flower essences. And these are Australian.
Interesting. Love it. So coming back to, sorry, I kind of digressed because you kind of touched on something that I went, oh, that sounds interesting. Coming back to the community that you were talking about, the value in well-being. I guess we've grown up knowing that it takes a village to raise a child, and women have always been traditionally. If we go back into the Paleolithic era and even earlier than that, we were traditionally the people that were around kind of the campfire, looking after the area where we were living at the time, nurturing the kids, etc. So we had the village support even then. And so we would have those conversations and, listen and connect, etc. And you said you touched on just being there to hear them, listen to them, let them speak. How powerful is that, being able to just have a voice and having somebody who has a willing ear to listen? So that is very empowering.
Look, I sat down with some of the healers, the medicine women, and that was just amazing to have a conversation about how they would support women during this time through perimenopause and all life stages, so from birth and conception as well. So it is that, exactly like you're saying, how they would work together. There was a medicine woman, and they did it in their way for their country, their space, But the whole thing of the whole community helps raise those children. I saw that all, every day. And I mean, we know that we've had multi-generation households, and we're going back to that now as well. So hopefully that space is supportive and in this time of our life as well. It's really great if that is happening in your home. But yeah, so it's just amazing to see, listen, and really then go, okay, what can I share to help you too? So I did flower essences on them though. It was, and that they just seriously accepted. They're so open. It's part of what they do. They understand. You don't have to explain it. They just feel it.
It's beautiful. I love it. I love community work. I think it's so important. And we have lost a little bit of that community with social media, which is not as social as we'd like it to be. Because I feel a lot of people kind of get stuck behind the screen and don't create that connection. So I think it's really important, whether you're in suburbia or in rural communities, to maintain that connection with people.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are almost out of time. So I wanted to then just pick your brain a little bit. We've covered so many things already. Are there any final tips, I don't know, strategies, advice that you've got for our ladies listening that can just help them in some way, shape or form with exhaustion or overwhelm or stress or anything else that they may be experiencing?
Yeah, look, first thing, listen to yourself, listen to your body. Take note. Maybe it is taking a little bit of a mark on the calendar or in an app or something, just to notice if you're feeling like things are a little bit going all over the place, moods are dipping or cycles are changing. Actually take note and listen. And then first port of call I would be speak to your friends. Actually connect about this topic. Don't just keep it in and think, oh, it's just me. Because if you actually reach out to others, you'll actually see that it's not just you, and they may even have some tips to help you, or maybe able to recommend what they did, or maybe that it's just an ear for you both to talk about this. My next thing is, it may not necessarily, if you want to and need to go see your doctor, then go for that. But don't feel that a hormone test is going to actually be the answer to what's happening, because our hormones are going up and down during perimenopause, and it's literally a snapshot in time. So you could be getting it when it's going up or on the way down. So it's actually not a good time for a blood test anyway. More specialized tests like dried urine or salivary hormone testing through a naturopath or integrated doctor could be more useful for you. So maybe that's your protocol after that. But self-care is really important. Take that time out for you. Create your rituals, whether it's a Friday night bath or a Sunday night where something's in the oven. Just create little rituals around yourself to help it make your life easier and more balanced.
That's such great advice. And I think it's super important that we do always include ourselves in that time for everybody. We make time for everybody else. We need to also include ourselves. And it's not about being selfish. It's not about dismissing everybody else. Put yourself in there. It's about don't forget you. Include you as well.
Yeah,
Kristy,
most
it
important.
has been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Not a problem, Terry. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, that wraps us up for another episode of the Perimenopause and Midlife podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Please join us again in our next episode, and don't forget to leave us a 5-star review and share with all the other ladies who need to hear this as well. Until next time, stay awesome. Thank you for listening to the Perimenopause and Midlife podcast. Join me next time for more honest conversations about midlife and what's possible from here.